Hey there, happy Friday. Today in my live, I am going to elaborate on the hormone cortisol, or otherwise known as the stress hormone, as it pertains to weight loss, inability to lose weight, and more specifically, women over 40 or women in that perimenopause or menopause phase of their life. So, the first thing I want to talk about is why, kind of the science behind why having too much stress or having too high of cortisol is keeping you from losing weight. Most women understand, or they've heard it before, that cortisol and belly fat, but they don't really fully understand the science behind it. So I think if I explain it in more detail, then you will be able to apply it more to your life. So cortisol in itself is not necessarily a bad thing. You need cortisol in order to stay alive. The key is you want cortisol to be in the right amounts at the right time for the right length of time. So when cortisol starts to become a problem is if it is elevated chronically. So, one example of when cortisol is a good thing versus a long chronic bad thing is, let's take, for example, exercise. So, when you exercise, your cortisol should raise up. Your body needs that cortisol in order to function properly, to feel optimal. That's what's supposed to happen. But it's supposed to raise while you exercise and then be able to drop when you're done. It's like your body takes that cortisol and uses it for the exercise, and then it needs to go back down to its normal level. But what happens a lot of times in women over 40 is that they will choose an exercise that raises their cortisol long term. It really stresses out the body. So for example, for some women, this is not every woman, but for some women, going on long endurance cardio exercising episodes of whether that be running or biking or just any long, several hours maybe, or even just an hour of cardio will raise your cortisol not only while you're doing it, but it's put enough stress on the body that it keeps the cortisol high maybe for the rest of the day. And that is when it becomes a problem, because a chronically all day long elevated cortisol will start to give you side effects that are not favorable for you. For example, it will cause blood sugar swings, because cortisol kind of acts like a sugar in the body, and so it's going to give you blood sugar swings. So what that's going to do is make you more hungry. It's going to increase your cravings, and you're going to feel hangry. So a lot of women, they go on a run, and then after the run, their blood sugar is all over the place because their cortisol is high, and then they feel hungry throughout the day. Their appetite is all over the place. They feel hangry, and then they end up kind of overcompensating in calories because of that high cortisol. So that is when that long endurance cardio, whether that have been biking or a long, gym class day after day, that actually maybe made you gain weight because of what it did hormonally to your body. The other common thing that I hear from women is, well, when I was younger, I could run and run and run, and that's how I lost my weight in my younger years. But now I do the same thing and it's not working. Well, what has happened here is that in your younger years, you had enough progesterone. Your progesterone was at an optimal level. And what progesterone does is it kind of buffers against the cortisol. So it kind of acts as a balance or a buffer, and it doesn't amplify those effects of the cortisol. And so now when you hit perimenopause, your cortisol starts to decline and you don't have that buffer. And so what used to work no longer is working. So that's kind of the science of behind it. The other thing that cortisol does is it does tend to cause fat storage to go in the belly area. And the reason for this is because it's kind of a protective mechanism where if the body senses stress, it wants to pack on fat around the middle area. It has to do with evolution and keeping the body safe. And so that's why that does that. So women will often tell me, I feel like I have more belly fat now, or my fat is being distributed in my belly more than other areas. And there's a lot of different reasons for that. But one of those is if your cortisol is elevated, that could be the cause. That could be one of the causes. So then the question that you probably have is, well, what do I do about this? Well, the first thing is that you have to understand is the body doesn't know the difference between a physical stress or a mental stress. It just knows stress. So the body doesn't know if the cortisol is being elevated because you're exercising or because you're having an issue in your life that's causing stress, a financial issue, a relationship issue. It doesn't know the difference between any of it. So the first thing you want to do is eliminate the stressors that you can, the ones that you can control. I know we can't control all of our stressors in our life, but the ones that you can control would be the things like, do you need to change your exercise around? Do you need to change up your routine? Do you need to do a completely different exercise, or do you need to, or is it okay to keep doing what you're doing, maybe just decreasing the length or the frequency of days per week? That's something you kind of have to play around with. And it depends on the woman. I have some clients that they are so chronically stressed and stressed out that they need to maybe eliminate exercise altogether for a while. I have some clients that they just need to walk a little every day and just forget about high intensity or long endurance exercise for the time being. I have other clients that they can keep doing their running, they can keep doing their distance running, but maybe they just need to taper it down to just maybe once or twice a week. I don't know. I don't know where you fall, but that's one thing I help my clients with. If you enroll in my program, we figure out what is causing the stress and how you can eliminate as much as possible. The other thing that women don't realize that causes stress is your diet. So sugar is a stress on the body. Sugar is very inflammatory. And so it's a stress in itself. And alcohol can be a stress on the body. So eliminating the inflammatory, stressful foods, that's something you can absolutely control. That's one thing to consider. And different people have different stress responses to food. So some people are intolerant to things like nuts or dairy, and that's actually causing a stress response in the body. So determining if you have a certain food that's causing a stress on the body and eliminating that is another important thing to keep in mind. Also, if you have any sort of disease or an infection that's not being taken care of, that can cause stress on the body too. So there are sometimes these hidden forms of stress that we aren't aware of that are keeping us from losing weight. Now, there are obviously the emotional stressors in our life that we can't always just eliminate and control. And that's where it's important, a couple of things. And this is what I help my clients with. And so if you can resonate with this, I really want you to consider enrolling in my program, because this is key, what I'm about to say. So there are two things you can do with the stress in your life that you feel like you can't really there's really nothing you can do about it. So whether, like I said, is that a financial issue, a relationship issue, it's causing a lot of stress in your life. One thing to do is to learn how to deal with the stress that you have, that you can't eliminate. So how do you process that stress in a way that will relax your body and lower your cortisol so that you still are able to have the stress, it's just not having that same impact. And that's one thing I teach my clients about, is how do you actually process the feelings that are causing the stress is key. And the second thing that I help my clients with is how can we look at your situation, your stressful situation, in a different light so that it might eliminate the intensity of the stress, or maybe it could eliminate the stress altogether. There are different ways to look at things. And that's what I'm really good at when I'm working with my clients, is I can help you see what you can't see in a situation and help you look at things in a different light so that hopefully we can at least lessen the intensity of the stress and maybe, eliminate it altogether. The final thing I want to say about stress is there are things that you can do to kind of counteract the stress or kind of relax the nervous system. And this is one thing that I recommend incorporating every single day into your life, 7 days a week, especially if you're somebody who is feeling like you have a lot of stress. I call it RNR Workouts. And that stands for rest and relaxation workouts. So you aren't actually working out, but you're taking one thing every day to relax the nervous system, to rest and relax the nervous system. So this is one thing I want you to plan every single day. First thing in the morning, plan your R&R workout. So these would be things like massages or meditation or a nice, slow, leisurely walk out in nature, or sauna therapy, or anything that you can think of that is going to relax your nervous system. And sometimes these R&R workouts are more beneficial to your body and to your weight loss efforts than actually traditional exercise. So that's one thing you can consider. Like I said, I recommend doing it 7 days a week, but maybe what you can do is take 3 days out of the week and spend an hour doing an R&R workout. And then the rest of the days of the week, you can go ahead and do your regular exercise. It just depends on the person. So how much, I have a question here. How much of a factor is sleep when it comes to stress? That is very important. I'm so glad you asked that. So lack of sleep is in itself a stress on the body. So that, for emotional reasons and physical reasons, not getting enough sleep, yes, will be a stress on the body. So whatever that looks like for you, to get more sleep is definitely going to be key. For some women, it's just a matter of they need to kind of discipline themselves and get to bed earlier. For other women, it's more of a hormonal issue that's keeping them from sleep. Usually it's a progesterone or estrogen deficiency that's affecting their sleep. So whatever the reason is for you, and I can help you find that. The other thing I help my clients with is determining, okay, why can't you sleep and what do you do about it? It could be as easy as, supplementing with something. You may need to look at bioidentical hormones. You may just need to look at something like the environment in your bedroom is not ideal, but yes, sleep is definitely important. And the amount of sleep, I don't know. It depends on the person. I would say kind of a rule of thumb is you want to aim for around somewhere between 7 and 8 hours of sleep a night. It tends to be ideal for most women. So please ask me any questions you have around stress and weight gain and inability to lose weight because of stress. The other thing too that's interesting to mention is I've noticed this in myself, and I have noticed this in other clients too, is that they maybe are living somewhat of a stressful life. Maybe they don't even realize how stressful their life is. They can't lose weight. And then they go on a vacation. So they'll go on like a 7-day vacation, relaxing vacation. They'll just lay on the beach. They won't worry about what they're eating. They just kind of relax and just let the stresses of life go for a week. And to their surprise, they will end up losing a significant amount of weight on that vacation. And that is because they have relaxed their nervous system, their cortisol lowered, and they lost a lot of inflammatory weight and some body fat too. So I don't know if any of you have experienced this before, where you actually go on vacation and you relax and you come home and you notice you've lost weight. Well, that is a telltale sign that your problem is probably more stress related than it is anything else when it comes to inability to lose weight. So let me know if you think this is a problem for you. Ask me a question or let me know, or just comment and let me know if you think this is an issue for you. But cortisol is a very important hormone to consider. In my live a few days ago, I primarily talked about leptin and insulin, which they're kind of on the top of the totem pole, but we cannot forget about cortisol. Cortisol is like it's basically a steroid. So I don't know if you've ever known anybody, or maybe yourself, you've been on steroids in your life and you notice that you're puffy, you're inflamed, your face is round, you're super, super, super hungry, you rapidly gain weight. That's because that's what steroids or cortisol, that's what that does to your body. So it is definitely important to consider. So I'll stay on for another few more seconds, but that's kind of more of the detailed science behind cortisol and why it's inhibiting your weight loss. So if you resonate with this, if you feel like you just need help and guidance and direction around losing weight in general, stress stuff included, then I want you to enroll in my program, because this is definitely something we will take a look at. Is there any value in getting your cortisol level checked? Well, this is a good question. The thing with cortisol is that it's supposed to fluctuate throughout the day. So in the morning, it is supposed to be a completely different level than what it is at night. So if you do get like a simple blood test of cortisol, you want to test it in the morning, and it should be higher. I think, I can't remember right the normal reference range. I think it's something like, I don't know, between like 10 and 15 or something like that is the level that you want it to be in the morning. But the only problem with that is we don't know what it's doing the rest of the day. So we don't know what your cortisol looks like at noon. We don't know what your cortisol looks like at nighttime. So maybe the morning cortisol isn't your problem. Maybe the nighttime levels of cortisol are your problem, which in that case, the blood test isn't going to be able to tell us that. So the most accurate way to test your cortisol is to do like a 4 or 5 panel test, where you're testing throughout the entire day to make sure that it's following the curve. So make sure that it's high in the morning when it's supposed to be high and low at night when it's supposed to be low. And so there's a couple different options you can test if you want to do kind of the 4 or 5 panel. There are saliva testing that you can do, where you would spit into a tube throughout the day and then test 4 or 5 different times. Or you can do a urine test, where you test your urine throughout the day to get an accurate picture of what cortisol is doing throughout the day. So hopefully that answers that question. Is there anything else that you have? All right, well, like I said, please consider enrolling in my program if you want to address this issue along with all the others. Click the link in my bio or send me a DM and I will give you all the info. But all right, that is what I have for you today. And all right, I'll see you all soon.